CreBiz for creative business, okay? I like this description here, nomadic cross-cultural entrepreneur with a diverse national and international outreach. So strong background in leadership and entrepreneurship. I'm particularly interested in noting that founding chair of G20 YEA, G20 Young Entrepreneurs Alliance. So you've been also involved in working with young entrepreneurs. With that, I think that we will get started with Nkemdilim Begho.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nkemdilim from Nigeria, and I'll be talking about the industrial perspective of innovation towards a creative economy. So I'm going to give you a very quick introduction and give some context. So with the globalization, there's been a shift in how we work, and also innovation, knowledge, and capacity building frameworks have begun to play an even larger role in our economic development. So in this presentation, we're going to focus on evaluating and analyzing how the industry can basically help become or help in the transition towards a creative economy. Because there are different stakeholders in terms of the government, the industry, you have the educational sector, you have the research sector, and you have the consumer. And each of these stakeholders play a specific role in the creation of a creative economy. Now, the creative economy concept basically refers to a range of economic activities which are concerned with the generation or exploitation of knowledge and information and are deeply anchored in innovation. So innovation is the subject of this conference, and we're going to basically look at ways of how to accelerate innovation. Now, what are the requirements for an economy transitioning towards a creative economy? The economy has definitely been affected by the global economic crisis, as most world economies have been. The economy places high value on education and research, has a high level of infrastructure development and advanced research and development facilities, as well as an advanced ICT infrastructure. There's a huge disconnect between the different stakeholders in most economies that are about to transition into becoming creative economies. As I mentioned, the stakeholders are government, research, education, industry, and consumers. There's also a critical need to reinvent itself in order to become more competitive or to become competitive again, right? So, and then also the country or economy spurs technology innovation and stimulates the creation of new industries that accelerate job growth. Now, as I mentioned, these are the stakeholders. Now, I've grouped the stakeholders into different groups. They're the enablers. The enablers are government, education, and research. And then there's the driver, in my opinion. In my opinion, the driver is the industry. Because the innovations are usually, even though a lot of innovations come from the research sector, they are driven through the industry sector, and they are brought into the markets through the industry sector. And then there's the fuel. The fuel is basically the consumers. If nobody buys your innovation is practically useless, right? So we're going to look at each of these segments. So the government basically creates an enabling environment for the industry's success. And this is done through economic policy frameworks, as well as capacity development frameworks. Now, I'm specifically going to focus on capacity development frameworks because I think that this is where one of the largest gaps are found. Education is another enabler because education basically breeds the future's workforce and ensures that industry demands are met in terms of the required capacity. So again, we're going to focus on the capacity development gaps, influenced by the capacity development framework as well as government funding. So the state of a country's educational system usually depends on the importance that government places on education. Then we have research. So research is often done within the educational space or in collaboration with industry, and also a lot is funded by industry or funded by the government. And it basically addresses the demands and solves industry problems a lot of the time, known or unknown to the researchers. Again, it is directly linked to government policies, so government obviously plays a very big role, because if the government doesn't place enough importance on research, then this sector can easily be neglected. Now let's look at the industry. As I said, the industry is the driver, so if we look at it in terms of the enabler being the road that the car drives on, and the driver being the actual car, and then the consumer being the fuel that you have to put in the car for the car to move. So, in my opinion, industry is a key player in creating a creative economy, and basically makes that enabling environment that is created through government and created through research and education meaningful. And in this presentation, or in my context, industry includes huge conglomerates as well as SMEs and startups, because if we only have big companies, we will see very little growth. We need the small companies to grow, and we need even smaller companies, to keep all the other companies and all the industry sectors on their feet. Then we have the consumers. So you have local and global consumers, and they basically fuel the industry. So some companies are focused on only local consumers, some companies are focused on global consumers. And for simplicity reasons, I'm going to just assume that basically the consumer demands are in line with the industry output. So what are the challenges that we face? We face 3 different challenges. So there's the bureaucratic challenge, the knowledge transfer challenge, and the entrepreneurship and future worker challenge. The bureaucratic challenge is basically the challenge of the slow pace of the public sector, so the slow pace of how government creates policies, and basically, the industry in a lot of places is always 5 steps ahead, and there are a lot of scenarios where you're waiting for policies to come in place. I come from Nigeria, and in Nigeria, for example, the tech system is bubbling, and there are so many laws that are not in place, which make it very, very hard for tech companies to actually grow. Now, what is the solution? So, in my opinion, the industry has to work together with the government in terms of playing an advisory role and basically help guide the policy-making process. Policy-making will always be for the public sector, yet I think that you still need industry experts to guide you in terms of the kind of policies that you have to put in place, especially in terms of the capacity development framework. Then you have private-public partnerships, which help to quicker implement projects and also have a higher chance of sustainability, because the private sector obviously is profit-driven and also very, very time-conscious. Then you have the knowledge sharing that I think has to happen as well, which basically would be between industry captains and visionaries within the government. So this is basically to share strategies, to share roadmaps, to share visions of where an economy is supposed to be, or is going to be in a couple of years. Because without that knowledge sharing, I don't see how it will be possible for a creative economy to evolve. Then we have the knowledge sharing challenge. So this challenge is focused more on education and research as a whole. In my opinion, there's a huge disconnect between the industry and the research, and also the role of research has changed a lot over the years. Yet the way that the research community conducts itself hasn't really changed. And this is a problem as well, because researchers are very laid back, and if you compare them to industry captains always have goals, they have KPIs, they have deliverables, they're under a lot of pressure, they're under a specific time frame to deliver certain things. So that has driven them to actually create interior or internal R&D facilities within industry, which obviously then creates, you know, an imbalance in the system, because if industry is innovating on its own and research is innovating on its own, and there's no connection, it means that two people can be working on the exact same thing and wasting their time instead of working together and making progress much faster. Now, the solution, again, is collaboration between academia and the industry. The reward system for innovation also has to be increased drastically. There are a lot of cases where, you know, researchers in the research sector don't get rewarded properly for the innovations that they come up with, you know, or they just get given some little money and then that's it, while the industry makes millions over a long time. Obviously, if you don't have an incentive to constantly innovate and constantly come out with new solutions, because there's no proper reward system in place, you know, it will reduce or it will delay the time that it will take to become a creative economy. Then obviously there has to be facility sharing and resource sharing. As I said, a lot of industries are building their own research facilities, but they're already existing facilities, so why can't you share the facilities? I like what in the previous panel, one of the speakers gave an example of Rolls-Royce, basically working together with a university and driving their innovation from within and having their own employees within the system. So these are the kind of models that we need to adapt in order to actually become creative economies. Then we have training. Now, in order for industry and research to work together, because they have very different work ethics, it's very, very important that people within both sides are trained properly. And I think especially the people who liaise with each other in order to create that interface between industry and research. Then we have the entrepreneurship challenge, and to me this is the biggest challenge, and you know, the challenge that all economies need to look at. We have a lot of young people, a lot of smart young people that have a lot of ideas, yet we haven't created enabling environments for them, or we haven't allowed them to understand that you don't necessarily need to get a job. You can actually create a job for yourself and for many others. You can build a business. And I think that, you know, we have to look at what are these enabling factors of a young person actually saying, okay, yes, I can go ahead and I can start up my own business. So one of them is basically the ease of actually starting a company. How easy is it to register a company? How easy is it to access incubation? How easy is it to access funding? You know, if I come up with something really innovative and a big company, you know, takes my idea or buys my idea, how protected am I? How much compensation am I going to get? What is, you know, how supportive is the policy framework for entrepreneurs, especially because in a lot of cases you have small companies that are, you know, they're one-man or two-man businesses that are slowly growing, and then a big giant comes and crushes them. And that person, you know, has now basically been robbed of their dream just because there's no proper policy framework in place. Then obviously imbibing the spirit of entrepreneurship, there are a lot of countries and societies where entrepreneurship is frowned upon because entrepreneurship always has to do with failure. If you haven't failed, you're definitely not an entrepreneur. Then there's obviously global competition as well that we have to look at. How big is the global competition? What are the policies that the governments are putting in place in order to make sure that within a country entrepreneurship can still grow? And then obviously, what is the optimal capacity development framework that is set up? Because if we're not taught to be entrepreneurs, how do we become entrepreneurs? Not everybody can wake up one day and say, I'm starting my own business. There are very few people like that, and they have this inner drive that is there, and they can't sleep, they can't eat, they can't do anything. They will just keep going, and they will follow their dreams. But other people require a more strategic approach. They require a more planned approach to this. So how can industry help? So industry, as I said, is big companies, SMEs, as well as existing startups. So they can play the advisory role in terms of identifying and supporting government-funded entrepreneurship projects, and basically helping government find out which are the projects that are successful. They can also give direct advisory for startups in terms of mentorship, advisory board seats, which I think is very important because if you've been in business even just 1 year longer than another person, you have learned something that you can share. Then they can obviously actively participate in the educational curriculum development as well as implementation. There have to be partnerships, local and global partnerships between startups and existing companies in different sectors. And then large companies also need to participate in building these creative economies and how much they collaborate with entrepreneurs and with startups is very vital. Then obviously there's knowledge sharing. So if the industry captains go into universities and actually give lectures and allow young people who want to be entrepreneurs to actually come into their company and do internships, this will also really, really help. Some of the most inspiring lectures I've heard are from very successful serial entrepreneurs who have started and failed multiple times and who are now finally reaping the fruits of their labor. Then another thing I think is important is to celebrate entrepreneurship and tell the stories of the entrepreneurs. I think this is something that will also change the mindset of how entrepreneurship is perceived within a society. Another thing that I feel is very important is female participation. And this is something that the industry needs to support in terms of creating women-friendly work environments, do equal pay opportunities, as well as supporting leadership programs specifically for women, because in a society is formed by men and women, and if we do not have participation and influence by both parties, we're not going to have anything that is sustainable. We also need to spur creativity through fun workplaces. If we look at all the companies in Silicon Valley, they have loads of toys, they have colorful environments, and these are environments that help them to actually be more innovative. We also need funding. So industry can help fund through grants, through investments, and by that, they actually help themselves because they actually diversify their portfolio as well as create more business. And then the last point that is really, really key is the capacity development. So I think that entrepreneurial learning needs to be included in the curriculum from a very young age. And for example, in Nigeria, we have 3 major tribes, and one of these tribes is very business focused. And if you see a successful business person in Nigeria, you'll say, oh, he must be Igbo. And the reason why you say that is because in your mind you've associated a successful person with somebody who's Igbo, whether they've gone to school or they haven't gone to school, it doesn't matter. And the reason why they can do that is because from a very young age, they're introduced to trade, they're introduced to doing business, they're introduced to networking, they're introduced to basically selling and marketing themselves at every stage of their life. And I think this is something that if you learn this from a very young age, it will be much easier for you to create your own company and set up your own company. I also think a capacity development fund geared towards supporting the transformation agenda would be very, very helpful. If all the companies contribute towards a fund that can then go into supporting entrepreneurs, it would go a very long way. And then obviously collaboration again. So industry, in conclusion, industry is the key determinant in the success for the transition into a creative economy, and all stakeholders have to work together. And capacity development basically is the main challenge and requires special focus and special attention so that there can be a paradigm shift in the capacity development frameworks and creative economies can become highly competitive. Okay. Thank you very much.
Nkemdilim, thank you very much. Michael Lee.
Thank you so much for bringing me here. My topic is about the challenge which the Korean young entrepreneurs have faced 21st century, and then later I will mention about the opportunity for 21st century to become entrepreneur. Basically, I want to mention 4 things. First one is who is Nkemdilim. Second one, why is entrepreneurship so important 21st century? Why is many government emphasize entrepreneurs spend a lot of money to encourage young people to start a business? And the third one is a challenge. And the last one, I want to recommend 3.
Use mic.
Use mic, please.
Don't translate. Sorry. Thank you.
So last one, I recommend 3 things to overcome all the challenges. My name is Mike Lee. I have a Korean name, Chang Pi. So this is my current one. I want to become the nomadic entrepreneur to travel around the world to meet the young people, to help them to create their own professional career. So I believe all human being is the answer and hope for our future. So I wanted to dedicate my life to do this one. Also, 2010 Young Entrepreneurs Alliance, we handle our communique to the G20 leaders. We mentioned that young entrepreneurs are potential drivers of economic growth, job creation, social change, and innovation. In 2011, Barack Obama mentioned also his emphasis on entrepreneurship and entrepreneurs. Why is it important of SME? I mentioned that in the GDP, Korean is almost 50% of GDP comes from the SME. Important thing is job creation. More than 87% of job creation from SME. So this year, our president went to the World Economic Forum, and she has one of the keynote speakers, and she emphasized on entrepreneurship and innovation into action to driving force of a stable, inclusive growth. So she developed the idea of the creative economy through the entrepreneurship. In Korea, 1997, we made a law, Act of Special Measure for Promotion of Venture Business. At the time, as the government started to invest a lot of money to promote entrepreneurship, support all the SME. 2011, our Korean government invest more than $183 million to 21 projects: education, training, financing, consulting, mentoring. Through the effort, compared to the 2008 and 2013, unfortunately, young entrepreneurs' rate is a decrease, even though we spend a lot of money. Then later I'll explain why. And then also, women entrepreneurs getting increased, but the male entrepreneurs decrease continually. This is a year trend of company number by age. Under 38% of young entrepreneurs also continually decrease. This is nonsense because we spend a lot of money and support a lot. Some people say that even though a year 1 million people start the business, it's more than 86% will fail in 1 year. And so I think it's more than 3 years, 95% of startup will fail. So why? Because it's very difficult to get the money. When you start the business as a young, when you go to the bank, they say, go. We cannot guarantee you to return. Because you have the lack of the credibility, lack of the experience. Also, they went to the venture capitalist. So I saw that your business idea is not good. They mentioned that we are emphasizing on importance of entrepreneur, CEO, and team, but eventually, really they see the number rather than potential of the business. Also, they want to love to invest a lot of money, ICT, or high-tech, rather than manufacturing. If you produce one manufacturing one, it takes a long year, lots of money, most of them is easy to fail because very difficult to get the fund from the venture capitalist. The second one is a very short-term, outcome-oriented by the government side. Why? They always emphasize on start rate rather than success rate. When you see all the newspaper, the government said we create a lot of jobs because they provide a training program, give the small money to start their business. They push the local government, push the university to provide all the training program later. We want to see the business restoration in 1 year. So we create a lot of jobs. Well, when to China, they have a foundation, used business in China. The success rate is more than 90%. What is the measure of the success rate? When you start the business, they borrow the money from the bank. In 3 years, they return 100% through the business and then employ someone. And Canada one is more than 95%. In Korea, I think it's less than 5%. And also, our government emphasizes one-person creative business rather than team business. As a team, 3 or 4 people start one business, just want to create one job. But each person start a business to create 4 jobs. So political reason, they emphasize on one person create a company. But when you go to the angel investor or the venture capital, they said, we don't want to invest money to the one-person company. We want to see the team members. There's a contradictory between government policies, regulation, and business area. And then also the government wanted to invest 1 or maximum 2 years regularly. But each business sector, they have a different range of the money, especially in the ICT area, they invest a lot of money in 2 years because they employ a lot of people, spend a lot of money to develop the program. Then later they get income. But manufacturing needs a lot of money continually because they produce a lot of money. When you make some prototype, when you fail, they continue to develop new prototype one. So they continue need a lot of money, but only government focuses on less than 2 years. So after that, very difficult to get the fund from the government side. The third one is entrepreneurship culture. I think most of the countries except America are very difficult to accept the fail. The fail is like a shame. Also that the parents want their children to get the job in government sector or large company to rather than start a business. I think start a business is the last option. How can we change the sort of the mentality of entrepreneurship culture? So there is no second chance to start the business. What should we do? There are so many challenges, difficulties as a young entrepreneur to start a business, make our business sustainable. But I think there is no perfect environment. Always there are challenges, difficulties. How can we overcome? First of all, we should believe in ourselves. Because you are Superman. Yes. Because you have a great DNA. You have a great potential inside. Even though we do not believe ourselves, who's going to believe us? This is based on the culture. Some culture, it's America that has a very high sense of the self-egoism. But most of the culture is a part of culture. We have a small sense. Very difficult. So always in Korea, we have a very negative attitude. Even though during the class, the student raise their hands, teacher, I have the questions. But very difficult to raise hands. But now a little bit changed for me when I studied high school, university, very difficult. Even though I know the answer, very difficult. Sir, I know the answer. But say that, you are too arrogant, how could you answer like that? So all education environment is not good to become creativity. So, how many times did you try or fail? The Starbucks Howard Schultz met 242 venture capitalists, but 217 venture capitalists say no. Don't make your business franchise. This is one of the best photos of National Geographic. The photographer take a 400 shot to get the best shot. The Sanders, when he retired, when he was 65 years old, he met 1,009 people. Please help me to open Kentucky Fried Chicken. They say, no, 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 go home. He never gave up. Thomas said he invented filaments. He failed 2,000 times, but he said, I haven't failed at all. I found 10,000 different ways. Work doesn't work. This is James Dyson. He invented a new sexy vacuum machine. During the 5 years, he failed 5,127 times. So how many times did you fail to achieve your dreams, to achieve your visions? Michael Jordan said, I can accept failure, but I cannot accept not trying. So during our failure, we know what is a real passion, real vision for me. Without difficulty, it's very difficult to see exactly. So, without payment, without crown. No payment, no crown. So, are you ready to pay something to achieve your dreams and visions? But never, ever, ever give up. Last one is just to do it. Many cultures are very difficult to take an action. But we don't know what happens in the future. If you do not today, never happen tomorrow. So, when the earth has difficulties, we call Avengers to save Earth. But we don't need them to save our economy for our job creation. Who do we need? It is you. Because you have a great potential to change the world. Entrepreneurship is not only for the job creation, economic growth, innovation, or social change. I believe entrepreneurship is life-changing experience. If we do not change our paradigm, continually, so many difficulties comes up. But I believe we have great potential. We can change our challenges into the opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michael. You're saving the hard questions, right? Everybody's saving the hard questions. Otgonchimeg?
Good afternoon, everyone. So, first of all, congratulations for previous speaker. Very well done, very motivating presentation. Now I'm a little bit worried because my presentation may be very boring than previous, but I am trying to get my perspective, especially from satellite industry. So to make some interesting, because of the previous speaker, I would like to try some little bit brief introduction about the satellite, because many of you came from different industry, so maybe some of them not familiar with satellite. So later on, I will little bit talk about satellite industry, especially innovation and challenges. Then, from the satellite industry, the satellite service industry is the most big portion of this industry. So what's the satellite? So this is artificial body. So the very artificial body makes us very good opportunity, also at the same time giving the challenges. So Macaulay told opportunity and challenges, but opportunity. But I would like to say opportunity, but also challenges. So this satellite have very different kind of satellites. So in this topic and this presentation, I more focusing on communication satellite. So communication satellite is just as orbit placed equatorate 36,000 kilometers from the Earth. So, but usage is huge. So if you see that this figure, the key usage of satellite is there in everywhere, even for companies and government and individuals. So many of the application is very familiar with you, but it's still using the satellite. So also the satellite will and must be an integral part of the future communication ecosystem. So from now also in the future, all of the part communication will be related in communication, satellite communication, especially in rural and remote area, which doesn't have any cable infrastructure. So, which means that this industry itself have huge potential for innovation for economic growth. So this satellite industry value chain actually includes several main components. It's the satellite manufacturing, satellite launching, satellite operation, and equipment manufacturing, and last one is service provision. So actually, in this sector, there's several hundred companies is doing good business, but leading companies is very few. If you see that the satellite manufacturing portion, the only 6 leaders in the world. In the launching, only 3 leaders in the world, something like that. But in the equipment manufacturing and sales industry, there's the thousand companies is challenging in business. So in this figure, I just would like to show how much portion of the satellite industry for what kind of part. So if you see the satellite and service industry, this is big portion. It's always increasing every year. From 2006 to 2011, it's the 11% is increased. But last year, it's the total 3% increase in compared to the world economic growth. So also satellite service industry, the main service is broadcasting. Satellite TV broadcasting is the main service industry in the satellite service. So if you see this chart, then 100 billion industry in this area. So also the some of the industry slides you can see in this slide. Again, this is the service industry is the biggest portion in this industry. It's one of the companies, our company, DDishTV, is doing the satellite TV business in Mongolia. So now I would like to share a little bit about the R&D in this sector. So those innovation and makes the good opportunity, same time, and making some challenges also. So main relevant R&D areas in this industry is high throughput satellite, because as you know, in the world, data communication is always dramatically increasing. That's why satellite transponder is dramatically increased. So in this regard, the high throughput satellite is very important. Also, efficiency of the interference because of the space communication, it should be avoid the interference. Also user-friendly terminals, because the satellite communication for rural and remote area, that's why the people should integrate their own network. So also multi-usage is very important, because same time users want to have internet, same time in TV, etc. So, but in the Earth is very few, because of the industry itself is very huge and very high-tech industry. So currently there's some of the outcomes is very becoming popular. This is Ka band high throughput satellite, also electronic propagation satellite. It's reduce the weight of the satellite. It makes the cost of launching. So those are the result. Many people willing to low cost, to increase the cost of the transponder. But it's trade-off, because same time the demand is always increasing. For example, high throughput satellite from 2013 to 2023, you can see dramatically increase. So how we overcome the demand and the new technology? So it's always the question. So from manufacturing company, for them this is good, because they're selling a lot of stuff like a lot of transponder. Also the operator companies, this is good. They're selling more transponder. But in our case, it's difficult. How to balance the manufacturing and service and consumer demands. Consumer always wants to have the less cost. But if the demand is increased, the new innovation cannot make sure the cost effective. How the service company have to balance in between those parts. So actually 5 trends drive growing demand for satellite services. This is one of the very important thing is the globalization. So its meaning is the movement of the content and data as businesses expand globally. This give us a lot of opportunity to make the business grow. Also, in the currently, as you know, all transaction digital to analog to digital broadcasting is already all the world. So that's why in the pay TV, digital pay TV market is increasing dramatically. As you see, the number of households in Asian region, 2004 it was 218 million households at the multi-channel. But now, in today, 2014, there's 500,000 households multi-channel TV. So it also DTH subscription grew very dramatically. In 2020, it will be 100 million households. So in this Asian region, there's a big part because of India and Indonesia and other markets is very important. Innovation and challenges. Because of this pay TV services, there's a lot of innovation in the global. So every the VOD and OTT and services is getting more popular, but also Ultra HD technology. Ultra HD technology actually in Korea first time commercialized, but many operators commercialized in 2016. But this is in developing countries, but many of countries still use the SD, not HD. But how we use the Ultra HD? It's again give us some challenges. So, which means I just mentioned in the Japanese commitment is 2018 they will announce the 8K channel in the world first time. So it's actually very difficult to follow all of the innovation within the time. But end of the day, it's again question: is it really users want to use technology or not? It depends on the country. Of course, in the developing countries, they can use those very nice technologies because they have own supply, they have own technology, they have own manufacturing company. They have smart devices everywhere. But some of the countries, still they're using the traditional equipment. It's difficult to implement those new technologies in these countries. So also the new innovation always follows another new standards. For example, Ultra HD driving a high fidelity video codec, and it's still not the problem. So also SAT IP technology is very nice because before I mentioned and most relevant R&D area is the multi-uses. So SAT IP gives the opportunity to multi-uses. At the same time, broadcasting and internet, also the smart devices can have video content in everywhere. So this is the point of the innovation and challenges. But before the conclusion, I briefly introduce the Mongolian market and our company. So PTV overview in Mongolia is actually, again, is very dramatically increasing. So because of the analog to digital transaction, there is very few competitors. The satellite TV is the most bigger market in Mongolia because we have very large country, territory, very small population, many people still living in nomadic. That's why this technology is very important in Mongolia. So DDishTV is the first established in 2008 to introduce the satellite TV service in Mongolia. So now there are more than 50% market share. So especially for rural and remote area. So conclusion of my presentation is satellite industry has a key role to play bridging digital content, delivering very high quality video, and enabling efficient broadband networks. The satellite communication provides unique capacity, but also have several disadvantages. So it's the promoting innovation of satellite industry. So from industry perspective, if we can challenge each of component of the satellite industry value chain, it can bring huge global economic and as well as very good quality of service for citizens. So direct-to-home DTH service is the most important in this area. So we need to innovative way to advance to compete with other pay TV services like IPTV. So innovation for substrate industry value chain to economic benefits always have trade-off between technologies, industries, and consumer perspectives. Thank you.
Otgonchimeg, thank you very much. And Sungmin Lee.
Good afternoon, I'm Sungmin Lee and I'm the CEO of the Hive. And first of all, it is my honor to be here and have a presentation today in front of the people from all over the world. The Hive is a manufacturer which is specialized in innovative tools, and I have been running this business for 4 years since I found this company in South Korea. With this business, I'm still experiencing a lot and learning, growing, and these are what I will do in the future as well. What I would like to talk today at this honorable moment is about movement of creative economy that I experienced by running this business for 4 years in Korea. And specifically, it is about young movement for creative economy. I think the startup business is one of the most important part in creative economy, and it could be very attractive and it could be very dangerous at the same time. And people think startup business would be worth a try for young people. Of course, there are a lot of senior startup companies as well. But unfortunately, most of young Koreans considering become an entrepreneur is nothing to do with them, even though there are a lot of good promotion and support program for startup companies. Well, I do think the supporting program for startup companies in Korea is the best in the world, and I'm sure you will try to establish your company in Korea if you know the details of supporting program. Anyway, the reason young Koreans think becoming an entrepreneur is nothing to do with them is atmosphere of this society is already formed to force young people not to consider it. Both starting a business and getting a job are wonderful because it makes creative something. The sad thing is Korea is forcing start a business which could be very awesome but could be very risky. And even more sad thing is most of young Koreans are only focusing on reading books to get a job, which they don't even know what they will do at work. And they only care about company's name or company's size. But I wouldn't blame young people if they read the books that may tell them wisdom or experience of life indirectly. But the problem is they only studying and reading on this society. They only reading and studying on what the society or the companies need from them for many years. I'm sure most of people in here know how beautiful 20 is in the lifetime, and you know what people can experience in their 20s, and you exactly know what you would do if you can go back to your 20s. This should be all about 20s, and it would be so cruel if the 20s has to be all about reading books that only lead people to unknown future where they don't know what they do and what they want. Nobody want to do that, but this society makes young people to do it implicitly. And there are 2 keywords in my presentation today, and these keywords should be respected in this society. As you can see the slide, the first keyword is start. I think start something advanced from theoretical concept is the biggest step. Start sounds very positive, and it makes me makes me and people get excited, get thrilled, even awaken at night. I think this is the start meaning. And I usually tell university students in their 20s that they're a wishful story for them. For 20s, you haven't even started anything yet in the lifetime, and you haven't even done nothing wrong. So you have nothing to be wrong, and you have nothing to lose right now, so you can prepare and start anything to follow your dream. I speak like I'm 40 or 50 years old, but actually I'm still in my 20s as well. And there is one more thing that I would like to say to 20s. If you think it is just hard with nothing, even before you start something, your choices might be wrong. Most of young Koreans start something in opposite meaning of the start, which I have talked today. It is really sad because they need to work at the factory in the field that they are interested in, or participate in internship program, or prepare to establish their own business instead of read books. And people should respect young people's choice if that is what they want. Then these experiences will make basis of young people, and it will lead young and sound economic activities. Even when I was starting my business, there were only two responses. First reaction was laughing at me, like, what? Do you? Or can you? And another reaction was scolding me. Everybody said to me, hey, you just better study more, or you just better get a job. But I think it is a good thing that the social atmosphere became more moderated than that time, but still, culture of respect in this society should be formed for young people's choice because they are also othered and valuable. And another keyword is fail. Nobody want to experience this word, but it could be happen to anybody. And nowadays, the competition is getting fierce in this society. So people consider failure of something as a failure of personal life. It has totally different meaning. And even the person who got failed think they are loser due to deep frustration in themselves. But I think this experience from the process to the fail has high value because the person who got failed will never make the same mistake again that they made. And this is our living lesson in our lifetime. And I'm sure this fail will be the history of success. So we need to create the social atmosphere to respect not only for young people but also everyone who tried their best even though they got failed. And I'm pretty sure these opposite meaning word start and fail will bring the same result in the future. And lastly, I would like to show you the video what I am doing. And this video is about our product, USB screwdriver, which can be charged with any USB port. And you can see this product in the States, France, Spain, Netherlands, and in Japan, of course in Korea also. When we develop a new product, we always concentrate on how it can be used easily and conveniently. And there are only 4 companies which can manufacture power tools in South Korea, including us. And it was really hard to make the system of manufacture in our factory. And second product is about to release soon. Yeah, I set up my business, what I have been asked most frequently was how much I have been made. But the motive that helped me to run this business for 4 years and get the all hard time was software, not hardware, such like wealth or property. There is nothing to makes me get excited than meeting big buyers or introduce my product and achieve the business and seeing overseas consumers are buying my product which I have made. And one day I got the phone call from unknown number, and the phone call was from middle-aged woman, and she said, "Thank you so much for making good product." And she said she never imagined this kind of product could be made in Korea. I will never forget that phone call. And in conclusion, the title of creative economy and startup business came up like a new trend in Korea. And I think this excellent trend seems planned by someone. But if we change the social awareness regarding start and fail, this excellent trend will be created naturally. So I prepared this presentation with a hope for changing social atmosphere and respecting all people's start and fail. Thank you so much.
Young man, thank you. And now we have an opportunity for questions, and all of the panelists available for questions. Could you identify yourself when people ask questions, if you'll just identify yourself?
My name is Hive, and I'm asking Mr. Nkemdilim, how many times did you fail to manage your company, and what kind of ways overcome when you met fails?
So after that, always I thought that I want to give up my business because I had a good job. So, but after that, always I mentioned my business is related to my mission in life. So sometimes, currently I return to my bank to return my debt. But currently I'm very tough. Sometimes in the morning when I wake up, very difficult to breathe. Also I had a heart valve problem. So very difficult to refuel, recharge my fatigue because I travel a lot. But every time when a very difficult time, I ask myself, Michael, will you like this one? This is your life, this is your mission, this is your vision. Currently, many of my business partners in South Korea ask me, don't travel around the world, stay in Korea, pay all your debt to the bank immediately. It means next 3 years, stay in Korea, and then later you can travel. But I feel this is my last chance to travel, so that in this year I pick my former job to teach in university and provide the entrepreneurship in the training program in university with also the other local government. But sometimes in the last minute, some people help me to travel in. Always I'm waiting for the help from the heaven, from my friends. Still very tough. At that time, ask myself, it is worthy to sacrifice everything for your life.
And we care too much about entrepreneur and about young in our region. And I believe all of you hear about what happened in the last 3 years in the region because the pressure in the youth and they don't find jobs. I need to ask you, all of you, first I need to thank you for a very interesting presentation. And I need to ask you how you resist the culture, the people who is fighting, any youth need to go for entrepreneur, your family. I believe every father and mother tell you, as you mentioned, go to a governmental job to be in safe side. How you resist this and how you put in yourself the all characteristic that you can go forward and don't listen to anyone take you back to the normal way in the living. Thank you very much.
And I too young, you're too this, you're a woman, why are you going into ICT? You should, get a job somewhere. And for me, it was something like, okay, I just want to try this. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I can still get a job later, So I guess everybody thought, okay, she's crazy. Why is she doing this? And but I'm a little bit of a hard head. I can walk through a wall if I want. If that is really what I want, then I will do it. I think the key is to build a support system. There will always be people who will understand. So for example, I was reading an interview with Jack Ma, the founder of Alibaba, and he said when he told 24 of his friends his idea, only one of them didn't laugh at him. You need to find that one person, no matter whether it's an older person, if it's a peer, if it's a sibling, a parent, or somebody, but there will be that one person that can support you, and that basically when you say, oh my God, what am I doing? Because you will have those moments. You will have those moments where you think, okay, they're right. I am completely crazy. I am very stupid. I should have just gone for the job in the government or in the bank. And I would, have a lot of money now. I will have this, I will have that. But at the end of the day, like Michael said, when every day you wake up and you're happy with what you're doing, that is worth much more than anything that money can buy you, or any kind of status symbol or any kind of success that is perceived by, or you work in the bank. Okay, you work in the bank and you get home at 9 p.m. and you have no life and, you don't see your children, what is that? It's not really worth anything, but if you can build something and you add value to society by what you're doing, I think that is something that keeps me going, and that's what fuels me on a day-to-day basis. And there's a saying that I really like. It says, to be an entrepreneur means spending a few years of your life like nobody else will, so that you can spend the rest of your life like nobody else can. Yeah. Thank you. I'm not. So my case is a little bit different. Before the business sector, I used to government after my PhD. So, but now I don't have any chance to pillar because our company have a lot of responsible in Mongolia. So if our company have some pillar, so there's more than 50% of the market has the problem because there are a lot of nomadic people just using DDH service through our company. So even they don't have any electric in the very remote area, they're only using the DDH service, using the solar panel. So, and for me, I don't have, I cannot accept any failure.
Thank you. Sangmin?
Okay, I will tell you shortly. As I told you in my presentation, everybody blocked me to do my business, but I didn't understand why should I study more, because I studied in middle school, high school, and university, but I didn't understand why everybody tell me you study more. I didn't want to be professor, so I thought it will take 2 years to decide that this business is successful or failure. So I tried to establish my company, and the hard thing was the young CEO is the biggest advantage for this company, but it is also the biggest disadvantage to give trust for big buyers. So that's why I got the government support to do my business.
Thank you.
And for me, it's very difficult to make my parents happy because they sacrificed everything for me, but now I didn't give any pocket money for them. Every time they ask me, when do you get married? Why do you throw away your teachers at the university work things? Very difficult to talk to them. And every time I ask the parents, Mom and Daddy, please give me some time. to make me time to be happy, and then later I will try to be that success. So I think I will recommend two things. One thing is follow your heart rather than hear. And the second one, be more selfish for yourself. Because in Asian culture, always is a group culture, family oriented. So whenever we make a decision, always think about family, friends, other things, so many things that happen. So difficult. But be more selfish for your happiness, and then I think in the future, success will follow your happiness.
But from the economic point of view, your tool is not so smart. Why don't you apply design to your product? Then it will be a more successful from the market point of view.
Of course, I will try. I made this first product.
You have an engineering background or a business background?
Business.
Your background. Your background.
My background.
Yeah,
You
academic
mean my
background.
major?
Yes. Yes.
My major is architecture design.
I see.
Yeah.
Why don't you apply
Quite different, right?
design?
Yes. And I worked in IT company, and I made power tools company. It is ridiculous, but I think nowadays we can go to university these days, right? So, and everybody can make everyone if that they think. So I made it, and I wanted to make more valuable, about the design or performances. But as I told you, it was really hard to make this system of manufacturing, and I didn't have enough money. So yeah, but I will develop more and more, and I have a lot of products which I want to make. So I will keep trying.
Okay, thank you.
My question is, how would you make sure that governments who are currently not investing into, innovation can be, by policy, the global policies, kind of be forced or managed to invade in creative economy?
Economy actually needs, because the government always has their own agenda. Also, as I said in my presentation, the focus of a government, so for example, if they don't focus on education, they don't focus on research, there are certain things that are not going to happen within that country. However, for example, in Nigeria, there's hardly any research. The educational system is very, very bad. Most people go out of the country to study. But yet, we have a very, very buzzing, young and creative economy within the bigger economy. And it's out of the lack of jobs. So in Nigeria, you either work in the bank, you work in the oil business, or you work in a telecommunications company. Those are the three main, choices of a job, but not everybody can get a job there. They don't have that many jobs. So at the end of the day, people are like, okay, you know what, I still need to make money, I still need to make a life. So they start a business. And this is a culture that is coming from the grassroots. It's not coming from the government, it's not something that is planned. And I know that one day the government will wake up and say, oh wow, okay, we have this cluster here, we have that cluster here, we have this cluster here, we need to do something. And this is already happening slowly, especially in the ICT sector. We're seeing a lot of this where the government has woken up to, individuals have created incubator hubs. In Nigeria, everything is done in the private sector, it's not done from the public sector. Once it's done in the private sector, the government will say, oh, we like this idea, okay, let's do our own. And most of the time, when they do it by themselves, it even fails because they don't even have the expertise. The people who have been doing it themselves, they have been trying to do it for so long, they have failed so many times, they have learned so many lessons, and that is why they're good at how they're doing it. But I think that the government's role should be to support, it should be to make it easier for entrepreneurs. But they need to understand that there is a reason to do that first. And I think that, especially in emerging economies, will take a lot of time. But I think in terms of a global perspective, there's more and more talk about entrepreneurship. There's more and more talk about creative economies. So people are looking at different strategies from different countries, and I think they're they're saying, okay, you know what, this worked in this country, this worked in that country, and then they bundle everything together and just try different things. So I don't think you can force a government, but I think it just comes naturally over time.
Government support for innovation is, nowadays it's not exactly the case in Mongolia, but in our company they have different story. When we established in 2008, we had government support initially because there are a lot of demand and because of the nomadic people need one of the channel. So government give the subsidiary to share the transponder P. Same time, we have responsible for government for national broadcasting system. It's one of the very good example to government and private sector partnership. So once side government keep the money, they don't need to professional team to have this national broadcasting. Same time, we can have a good opportunity for innovation and to create some revenues. Another case is the National Satellite Project. Government actually initiated the National Satellite Project 2012 because of a lot of demand in Mongolia. Because of the Mongolia has the big territory, and the satellite communication is the very relevant communication in Mongolia. But currently, the government has a little bit failure in this project. So actually, I had a responsible for this project in the government, but now I moved to private sector. But my vision is still active. So I would like to implement this project from the private perspectives. So currently we have discussion with some of the companies to have the concept approach, which means some satellite with other companies. So this is after the project, I am really sure that government also can support for some things.
My name is Salah from Kuwait. My question for the panelists, have you ever get an offer to exit your business? And if not, would you think about it with reasonable profit, as far as you will have a budget and you know the process of innovation and entrepreneurship, and you have in mind you could do something better? Thank you.
Their product for them on websites, and the founder of that company said to me, he said, okay, you know what, come and be one of our business units. You would still be doing exactly what you're doing now. And I said no, because for me, it's not about the money, it's about building a brand. I am trying to add value and I'm trying to create a brand that will be there even 100 years after I am not there anymore. So it's not so much about, being able to do a specific thing. It is more about, for me, it's more about, being able to do what I like, and that changes all the time. And, when I started, I was, programming, I was doing all these different things. And now I do more of management, I do business development and things like that, and I've employed people who do the programming for me. So that is what I like about my role, the fact that it keeps evolving and that I get to decide how it evolves, I get to decide how it's shaped. So even though, a lot of people go into business and they just want to, they go into it for the money, they know this is a good idea, I can get somebody to buy it and then I will do something else. But that's not what I want to do. I want to build a brand. And so I think, but it's something that is a personal decision. Everybody needs to know why they're doing something and what their long-term goal is, what they really want.
Do any of the panelists have concluding remarks that you'd like to make?
Here's innovation toward the current economy. All the government trying to do their best to create a good economy for young entrepreneurs, for the others. But the last 5 years I involved in G20 YA, I figured out government very difficult to change themselves. So young people or entrepreneurs have to stand up. We collect ways of the small boys and then we talk to the government. If not, they continue to ignore it, because I believe entrepreneurs are whole part of entrepreneurship ecosystem. But when I attend all the meetings, government side, professors, university, private sector, big company, attend it, but young entrepreneurs do not join all the meetings, regulations, policies, even though for the development. So I think it's time to paradigm shift for the government side to creatively structure all the old system to create a new system.
Before we thank the panelists, I just have a comment and then a couple of announcements that I was asked to make. When I was listening to the excellent presentations and certainly the superb responses to questions, I thought about a little video that some of you may be interested in if you don't know about it. Carl Bass, who is CEO of Autodesk, 3D printing, etc., has a nice little video on innovation that is on YouTube. So some of you may want to check it. It's about, 20 minutes long or so, but I think he does an incredible job of reflecting some of the issues that are indeed reflected so superbly by this panel. I was asked to announce that the General Assembly, that people who are a part of that the meeting is outside of this room right as we close this session. And the other announcement is that the forum for tomorrow will start at 9 a.m. Let us thank the panel. Isn't this a great panel? Let's give a round of applause to the panel.